So we're now online. We're just going to give it a little bit of time for people to join us. Okay, we have more and more people logging in, so we can start that. So good morning, everyone. This is the first webinar of this Wednesday, this third day of the marketplace. So I'll do as I do usually every webinar, and I'll thank our presenting sponsor, Quanex, which for this morning it's even more fitting because we have Eric Thompson with us, who's commercial sales manager with Quanex. So Eric, I understand you're going to present a little video to start.
Thank you for having us, and we're glad to be able to sponsor the Windor show. It's a little different this time, with it being virtual, but I hope we don't get used to it, but we might. But yeah, I'm going to do a video, and then I'll stick around after for some questions and answers.
Perfect. So for those who might have questions, as usual, you can use the raise hand button, and we can patch you in and you can ask your question live. Or if you prefer, you can use the Q&A button and ask your questions there, and we're going to get to them by the end of the video. So that's how we're going to proceed today. So Eric, if you want to share your video at this point, we can start with that. So I'll give you a couple seconds to do it. Make your
2020.
Full screen.
And this video presentation is going to be focused on vinyl extrusion, both for the commercial and residential market, and just kind of what's going on trend-wise when it comes to that. So Eric, let's start off. You do a lot of blogging on behalf of Quanex, and you actually are a part of the Window and Door blog as well. So how do you keep up on the latest trend in the industry for that?
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's interesting, over 25 or 26 years now being in this industry, the number of associates and contacts I've been able to make, and fortunately be able to maintain relationships over a long period of time and fairly diverse group of
Eric, I don't know if it's on my side. Oh,
at all levels of the company, from the plant level to the executives, and so it's really it's been a very interesting journey where I've been able to get perspectives from a lot of different areas, and just through discussions and working with customers and prospects, through the challenges that they go through every day. And of course, you mentioned Window and Door and other publications. They're excellent sources for information, not only in trends that are affecting our industry now, but the forward-looking articles that we read to see what is on the horizon. So it's been a good journey in terms of connections.
Great. So obviously times are different these days. We talked a lot about that with Joe last week. What trends are you seeing in the commercial marketplace, and what are you hearing from customers right now?
Yeah, for sure, things are different now than they have been. But the one thing that I've seen, and it's really been remarkable, is that by and large in the construction arena, especially, really in the construction arena period, commercial included, there hasn't really been a whole lot of effect on it. We've seen businesses in our customer base and also in other prospects we've talked to continue to just have extremely high demand throughout the country, and no one's considered region really. On the commercial side, especially, they've been considered an essential business for a lot of different types of buildings going on. And in commercial world, especially when it comes to our products, we're seeing that demand maintain pretty steadily. And then, of course, we're seeing some things on the horizon that says that we're not looking for a fall off really at any time in the immediate future. So the trends are to see a continuation, I think, of what we've seen in the past few months, and that's a good solid activity.
Great. Now, what about PVC? I know we've talked about that growing in market share for commercial fenestration. Is that still the case?
It really is. I think it's interesting to step back and kind of look at that from a perspective of the last 5 years. And PVC has been, especially on the West Coast, kind of already established itself in the mid, rise, and lower 4, 5, 6, 7, up to maybe a 10-story building. And those things have kind of taken hold there. We're seeing that really move more into the East Coast and then also throughout Middle America as well. I think the trends that we're expecting to see continue is that growth curve is going to kind of accelerate more so than what we've seen over the last 5 years. And in the next 5 years, that probably will increase exponentially what we've seen in current year today.
So you said that, obviously PVC, it's continuing to grow and accelerate. Are you seeing more commercial projects, higher rise, using vinyl? What about the framing material specifically?
Well, I think really what we're seeing is more of an interest from the architect and the developer side of things. We really expected to see more of an interest in early days on the commercial side for PVC because of a lot of factors. I think we'll cover some of that later on in our discussion. But the thing that I think is pretty interesting is that we're really beginning to get a lot more of that from the architect and the developer side where the demand is there. And you ask about specifically about the size or the type of buildings. I think right now the mid range is kind of like the top end, and I'm going to say up to about a 15 to 18-story building, kind of where that cutoff point has been. No specific data, just kind of what I've seen in terms of trends. But what I really think we're seeing is people are willing to go more into the PVC applications for commercial windows and doors. And I think at that point, once that's established, I think then we'll start to see that go into maybe even higher mid-range buildings. I don't know how far away we are on the high-rise buildings just yet, but certainly with the products that we've got that are EW rated, they're rated at the highest classification of a window and door product, regardless of the frame and material. I think certainly if they're proven on the mid-range buildings that we're seeing them go into today, and we get a comfort zone, then we'll see the high-rise buildings become more in play.
Great. Are there any applications, you kind of touched upon it, but you're seeing vinyl used more in, say, mid-rise multifamily use than the high-rise right now? Is that true?
Yeah, multifamily, and I think what they refer to as mixed use in the architectural world, where you have retail space on the first floor and then other uses above. It may include some residential and may also include some office spaces in that same building. So it's a multi-use type of a project. In addition to multifamily, I think that's really where we're seeing a lot of the growth. A lot of the customers that we have right now, when they send across drawings and window schedules and things for us to take a look at, that's really what we're seeing, most of those kind of buildings. They're the occasional other types of strictly office buildings and things like that we're being asked to consult on. But by and large, I think it's the multifamily and mixed use type project.
And what are the true benefits of vinyl framing materials in the commercial market? I know there's been hesitation in the past, kind of referring to it as plastic and not being widely accepted for commercial use. Can you walk through why someone would want PVC for their commercial use building?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think really the answer I would give somebody in a short answer is that really you're not giving anything up, but you're gaining a lot when you go to the PVC vinyl type applications for commercial. You're getting the structural strength. I mentioned earlier that we have AW rated products out there in the market. So you're not giving up size, you're not giving up structural strength, but you are gaining thermal efficiencies. You're gaining, in a lot of cases, sound transmission control, which is becoming a really big selling feature, I think, in a lot of markets, especially in the Northeast around New York. You're also in the markets where you have windborne debris, the impact. You know, we've been through the Laura just recently, and I mean all the way inland to Lake Charles, 30 miles off the coast. You can see the damage that those kind of storms can do in a wide range of area and distance from the coast. And we're seeing a lot of that interest as well, and you know, on the commercial side for windborne debris. So I would just say that you're gaining a lot of performance characteristics with the vinyl and not giving up anything. And I think the one other thing that I would say, coming from the commercial aluminum market years and years ago, one of the things that intrigued me about the PVC applications was the fusion welded corners. And so what that really means to our customers and to an architect or a developer is that the leaking of mechanically fastened joinery is virtually eliminated with the use of PVC welded corners. So there's some real world application benefits using PVC framing as opposed to standard commercial framing.
That's great. And now that we went through some of the characteristics of high performing vinyl and what organizations should be looking for, are there any kind of certifications that they should be looking into or looking for when speccing these?
Yeah, that's an important question as well. When you're in the North American fenestration market, there's certain expectations. We talked about AW rating. That's a structural rating that can measure the strength and durability of your product. But more than that, the material that goes into making up the framing material itself. For instance, our micron blend in our PVC extrusions, that material is certified to the Fenestration Glazing Industry Alliance, which is also known as FGIA, and formerly known as AAMA. There's a certification program there where we submit all of our profiles to be certified for use in the North American markets. And it's really important because, again, you may have a product that's able to withstand certain structural testing requirements, but if the product is not able to weather and be durable in North American environments and stand up to the test of time, I would say, then you're really not gaining anything. So we value the level playing field with third-party certifications of the material itself.
Okay, let's switch gears to the residential side. What are consumers looking for there that you've seen?
I think on the residential side, we're seeing a lot of the same things that we're seeing on commercial in terms of color. That's been one of the things that we've seen growing over the years, and it seems to really not even hit its peak yet, especially the dark colors like bronze and black even. Black is becoming probably, if not the most popular, one of the most popular colors out there. And so large sizes, color options, and I think thermal efficiencies really are the keys to the residential side these days.
And I know that you said in the past that energy efficiency has just become something that consumers expect versus asked for, correct?
Yeah, it really is. Energy Star is kind of a well-recognized name out there, and I certainly wouldn't suggest that Energy Star label is required. But I think what has happened over the years is that consumers have become very well educated on energy efficiency, not only in their appliances inside, but also their windows. And when you start looking at the efficiencies of a PVC window versus, let's say, a non-thermally broken aluminum window, IG spacer versus a monolithic glass, those things really carry a big weight. And I think most consumers now really expect to have a high performing product in the thermal category.
And what recommendations do you have for fabricators and manufacturers in the residential market? Joe and I talked a lot last week about automation. What do you have? What is your advice in so far as innovations in technology and everything on that side?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen. Like you said earlier, a lot of changes that have happened over the last few months, and I think with the labor situation being as it is, automation certainly is going to be consideration for manufacturers. But I think in general, you really want to look for innovations to set yourself apart from your competitors out there. We talked about color a little bit. I think not only the colors that you offer, but the technologies like our SuperCap technology, which is a thermally fused color option, and so it becomes one with the product. Or efficiencies of your plant layout. I think that's been discussed by some of my colleagues in the past. But additionally to that, I think also using your floor space where it can be most profitable, whether that means outsourcing certain things, screen manufacturing. I think my colleague Brian will be talking about that next week as well. So those are the kind of things I would focus on, I think, at this point.
Great. And what about commercial fabricators and manufacturers?
That's kind of similar to the residential, except for me, I believe what they really are doing, and I think they'll continue to do, is recognize the momentum that's going right now with the alternative framing materials in commercial applications. I think what we're seeing is not only a trend to a alternate framing materials, but I think even in the traditional materials, you're seeing continued trends there where they're moving more and more away from the conductive materials to a non-conductive material to be able to increase the thermal efficiencies and still maintain the strength. And colors, I think, is if you're in the commercial market, colors is a given. You really have to have that flexibility. You've really got to have a tried and true technology that they can count on, that you'll be able to stand behind. And I think that I would try to partner with someone who has a product that not only meets the structural requirements, but also as a material that can be verified by third-party entities here in the United States.
Okay, so to sum it all up, we obviously are not in person this year. We're supposed to be in Vegas right now or on our way to Vegas, but we aren't. Because we can't necessarily have those conversations in person, is there anything new from Quanex that you'd like to share in terms of products, solutions, services?
I think what we've really tried to focus on here, especially in the last 8 months or more, really is on the technologies that we offer already and trying to make those better for the customers that we currently sell and the prospects that we're engaged with. We've talked about SuperCap. That's our thermally fused color technology. I think it stands apart really from the other options that are in the market. And excuse me, the micron blend. We talked about weathering characteristics of the PVC and components and the framing materials that go into the windows you build. We worked on that continuously in that technology. I think my colleague next week, Brian's going to talk more about the screen side, but certainly we're investing heavily in the screen side of our business and recognizing how we can help our customers be more profitable using their floor space for other types of activities. Some of the new not technology, but some of the new market niches that are coming out, affect a lot of thermal efficiency type arenas. For instance, passive house. We're focused pretty heavily on developing that whole side of the business, where I know that that's been pretty prevalent in Europe for a while. It's coming to the United States, I think, a little bit more now than it had been in a while. I think maybe Joe might have talked about the IG spacer development, thin glass triples, and those kind of things. And of course, one of the things that I think is unique about Quanex that we offer is the roll extrusion technology, where we're able to put a metallic stiffener surrounded by a PVC exterior, and we're seeing really a huge demand for that and high weathering components, for instance, like a glazing bead or some other type of a thin wall material that really needs to weather and be stable in all types of environments in heated environments. So that's one of the things that we're seeing a big push for as well.
Great. Great. Well, thank you, Eric, for your time today.
Okay, so we do have questions. I'll give you a second to come back with us here. So it was a pretty good presentation, and you covered probably pretty much of the questions. So we have a question. Are you with us, Eric? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, perfect. So we have a question from Rick. He's asking, how are the dark colors applied, and how does your extrusions overcome the heat buildup associated with dark colors?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's interesting. It's applied as a co-extruded process. So as the PVC, the UPVC material is being extruded, there's a second co-extruder or a third co-extruder in some cases that come in and apply the color to either the outside or the inside, and in some cases both surfaces. So that's a fusion applied or a fusion bonded process where the cap color and the PVC are all bonded together during the extrusion process. Okay. And to answer the question about the heat buildup, that's long been an issue for PVC, window and door, or any type of outdoor fenestration material. Our technology is built around basically an infrared reflective type material. So the infrared energy actually passes through the coating itself and reflects off of the substrate below. So it doesn't absorb heat, and therefore we can keep our heat buildup numbers well below the industry standard, and well below the level that would cause the product to become unstable.
Okay, great. So that's a question we had for now. So what we can do is, we have a lot of people who are going to watch this recorded, in fact, and not live. So, okay, we have another one here. Terry's asking, warm spacers are developing and becoming the norm in much of the industry. With the growth of competition, are there any new super efficient spacer technologies coming?
I'm not aware of any big strides in the spacer material itself. We continue to tweak our formulas, especially in the foaming material that goes in to make up our warm edge spacers. But what we're seeing, I think, really is more of a movement or a migration toward a thin glass triples and that type of thing, so that you actually increase the efficiencies through multiple glass units within the same IG size unit.
Okay. I'll give it a second, because sometimes questions come as I'm wrapping up. So I just want to make sure everyone got answered. But yeah, so if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, you can always, you guys are in your booth all week, and I guess all year you'll be able to answer questions, right, in the marketplace?
Oh, of course. We're fairly accessible, I think, pretty much at any time through either email, phone calls. We're at all the industry events. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to be at these industry events lately because of the pandemic. But certainly, we have a prominent display at all the shows. Normally, we do at Windor as well. So we always welcome visitors, questions, comments, and other activities.
And maybe one last question before we leave. That got in. You mentioned thin triples. So far, we don't see this available to residential market. Do you see any progress here soon?
I do, actually, and that's what kind of alluded to earlier. What we're seeing is that when you do the thin glass triples, then it allows you to stay within that 7/8 or 1 inch IG overall space. And in Canada, I think 1 3/8 is kind of like the standard width of the overall IG. So it's a little easier to do a triple in that range. But in order to stay within the 7/8 to 1 inch overall IG size, the thin glass triples really is going to help people do that. So as you see those spacers being developed, and we've got one now that we're coming out with that will make the product all one spacer as opposed to multiple spacers making triple, which has been the case in the past. I think it's really going to be the next big thing in glass development.
Okay, interesting. Well, so that's it for us. I'm gonna invite everyone to go talk to you in your booth now, or by email, or any other way possible. But thanks again, and thanks Quanex for presenting this old Windor Marketplace by Windor show, and we'll see you around. And whenever you want to come back and present your products, just let us know. And for everyone on the line now, you can opt in the other event, which is going to be a technical session on why testing alone does not satisfy code requirements for Windows in large buildings. So you can join us for that. And thanks again. Thank you. Bye-bye.